We're back. This is Arts Alive. I'm Linda Philippi, and my guest in this segment is Steve Long. And Steve is here to talk about the book that he's just written. So welcome.
Thank you.
Steve, I'm so excited about this because I think that you're a fabulous writer. I can't wait to read this work, and I want to hear about it.
Oh, gosh. Well, where to start? Some years ago, I was in a class taught by Elizabeth George. And Elizabeth is an international bestseller. The BBC has a program called the Thomas Linley Mysteries based on her characters. So she was the real deal, and it was just such a privilege to be invited into that class and to learn from her. There came a time, I was in the class for several years, and there came a time when I was offered a grant from Elizabeth's foundation.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And so I took a year off, and the foundation paid for us to, paid our living expenses. And I wrote this book, or at least I wrote a version of the book. I'm not sure you're ever really done, but I wrote a version of the book, and then that's what now has become this book.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and I don't know if you want to hear about this particularly, but for those folks who care about this kind of thing, this was originally written in third person past tense and shifting third person. So I liked it, and a lot of people liked it okay, but I just felt that there was some spark missing. And at some point I read High Fidelity, Nick Hornby's book High Fidelity, and he presented that in first person present tense. And what that did for me was it put my protagonist front and center, and to at least a greater extent, if not blatantly, then you kind of get his motivation, or you know what he's feeling, because his actions really are different than his internal feeling. He can be a sort of an unlikable guy.
Okay.
He does some things that aren't very nice, but he does these things, the rationale to him is perfectly logical. It may not be to the people he does them to, but he thinks that he's trying to be a pretty cool guy, a pretty good guy. And so then High Fidelity is one example of what I've heard called male confessional, which I'd never heard that term, and I was actually watching something on the internet. It was a kind of a round table with various young agents, and they were talking about these things, and somebody used the term male confessional. So that would be an example. And another example is the Miles Raymond from the movie Sideways, or the book Sideways.
Oh, yeah. And
another, here's a guy, let's just say it, a bit of a jerk, but there is a character arc. You know, there's kind of a reason he's like he is, and then at the end, you hope that he's not going to be like that anymore, or at least he's getting better. And so that's my guy.
Okay, so here's the thing, Steve. You have the male confessional, but we've been stuck with chick lit.
I
Chick
know,
lit
I
for a
know.
really long time.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, I mean, I get the genre, but I still find it obnoxious. What I like about the first person is I think the third person past tense, you know, it's easy to stay distanced. When it's in the first person and it's in present tense, everything's immediate. You know, it's right now, and it's personal.
Yeah.
Because when somebody's saying I, you feel that you're right there.
You know, it's like anything else in life, there's a trade-off. First person, of course, is very intimate. It's very personal, but then that's the narrator.
Right.
And so you can't back away far enough to maybe see the bigger picture.
Right, that's true.
Omniscient point of view is the opposite. It's sort of godlike. You can see all this stuff, but then you lack some of the intimacy.
Right, this is like the chess pieces moving about.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then even at that, I've had that particularly omniscient described as a camera angle. So you can be omniscient but fairly close to the characters, or you can be omniscient and really godlike, really distant. And oh gosh, I think about The English Patient, you know, the book The English Patient.
I love that writer, Michael Ondaatje,
he's
yeah.
absolutely amazing. And he's austere. the narrator in that is really distant from the characters, except late in the book, without any warning, it switches to first person, and again, if you care about that sort of thing, it's just breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So your readers, I'm assuming you have a small circle of people who read your work as in progress.
Right.
And when you switched to the first person, they really thought, wow, that's the thing.
It depends on who you ask.
Okay.
And I have to say, there has been a real difference between male readers and female readers.
Ooh.
In fact, just before we started here, I got a call, and a female friend finished the manuscript and said, the good news is I dislike him less.
Okay.
And it's not that I think it's a matter of understanding rather than dislike. She doesn't understand his motivation. Whereas,
well, that's more the sexes, isn't it?
well, yeah. So
why do they do those things?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it really is a guy thing. Now, having said that, the problem for an author is something like 80% of book buyers are women. And they may or may not want to read about a guy who's kind of a bum. So that could be a problem.
Well, yeah, I guess you should have thought of that before you started the story, huh?
I'm consistent, if nothing else. I may not be very bright, but I'm consistent. It's what I wanted to do. It's what I wanted to write, so that's what I did.
You know, it's the story that you had to tell.
It seems to be. I worked on this really a long time.
So now that it's out,
yeah,
it's out of you, it's being born into the world.
Yeah.
You know, now you can have another baby, so to speak. You know,
I
the
knew
cute
this
pretty
was
one
coming.
this time.
Please, I knew this was coming, and I think any artist would say the same thing. You work on something and you work by yourself, and it's a fairly intimate process. And the criticism that I got from my wife was, "Well, you know him, but I'm not sure you're letting us know him." So
that's valid, I suppose.
I think it is. So and I try to address that and not be so subtle. So, but again, anybody you're drawing, you're making a painting or you're doing sculpture or something, and it's you're doing it. There comes a point when you let it go and it's out in the world, and then it really is. It's not yours anymore, and people make of it what they will. And I had another fine friend, author, teacher, Joanne Mapson, and she was talking to us one time about having written a book and got it out there, and then she went to speak at a class, and one of the students said, "Oh, I love the symbolism when they're walking through the fair and the guy hits the bell, you know, with the hammer, and I know that represents the chaos in his soul or something." And she said, she had, okay, if that's what you got from that, wonderful, but she had no thought of putting that into it. So people do see things that they bring to it.
Kind of like, going to the museum and looking at the abstract art.
Sure.
Or the gallery.
Yeah.
And there it is, and it looks like squiggles, and somebody says, well, anybody could have done that. My kindergartner could have done that.
Yeah.
And somebody else says, oh, the artist is tortured, and somebody else says, oh, no, it represents sublime happiness. And meanwhile, the artist is in the back room drinking a glass of wine and saying, I don't care what you think of it, just buy it.
Yeah. Get your checkbook out.
The more you talk about it, the price is going up.
Yeah.
So I think it's true. I mean, and that's part of where you are, is that you can't be thin-skinned about it either. I mean, you take as much constructive criticism as you can and use it, that feedback or whatever, but at some point it has to be finished and you have to let it go.
I have a friend, Patty Smiley, Patricia Smiley, has written some terrific books, and we were in Elizabeth's class together. And Patty was, when I say she was serious, what I meant is she was dedicated, not that she was glum or anything. But she would bring some work to class, and we would read it and critique it. And very often she would say, gee, you know what, that's a great idea. It's not this story, but it's a great idea. And I think that you have to, at some point within yourself, be solid enough that you know, because there's an endless number of choices.
Oh, right,
that
of course.
you can make.
Yeah.
And there's art choices, and there's craft choices, and there's economic choices.
Sure.
And, so you can do all of these different things, and at some point, I have now taken to saying, gee, that's a good idea. It's not this story. and I've lived with this long enough, and I like it well enough, and I think I realize that I'm satisfied.
That's the main thing. Really? Yeah.
Even now, I'll pick this up and open it to some page and think, well, that's kind of fun. And so that's, and then you move on.
It's still bringing you joy. I wanted to talk a little bit about the process. I know that you're going to publish this through Kickstarter, right?
Not publish it through Kickstarter, fund it through Kickstarter.
Oh, fund it. So could you talk about that just really briefly? Because I think that's, the first I really heard of this was when I saw the Kickstarter thing, I have to tell you. So, I mean, I thought that was a kind of ingenious, actually.
Well, I do too. I think it's really it's a concept that fits our age. So when you talk about social media and orchestrating a revolution by Twitter, something like that, I mean, we live in a new time.
Absolutely.
And what this is, the broad definition is crowdsource funding. So, and the computer, the internet, allows you to get your idea to the world. And what Kickstarter is, it's one side of many that is the platform to make your presentation. So I made a little video. There's a template that you fill out, but I uploaded a little video, and
I didn't even look at it.
We'll talk later.
I just donated it. It's Steve. I don't care. Yeah, it's got to be good.
Oh,
you made the video. Well,
I did the video, and I actually put the first couple scenes in there.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so people could read about it. But anyway, with Kickstarter, it's called All or Nothing, which is just like it sounds. You set a goal, and if you make the goal less their fees, you get the money. If you don't make the goal, then you get nothing. So, you know, it was an exciting time and a fun time. One of the great things for me was honestly just reconnecting with friends. I heard from people that I haven't talked to for 35 years.
I think that is so amazing.
How they heard about it. I mean, it's the Kevin Bacon thing.
It is. It's true.
Somebody knows somebody who calls somebody else. And
we're probably both related to Kevin Bacon on opposite sides of the family.
Yeah, I suspect. I'll see you at Christmas.
That's right.
But so anyway, it was a fun process. Thank goodness it was successful, and I can move on to the next part.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, I know. You know, we talked about that really briefly, and I just think, you know, as you said, the publishing business is changing, and so now when will the book come out?
I've set a deadline for myself of kind of June. And the reason for that is that part of this Kickstarter thing is a reward. So when you pledge at this level, you get a shirt. And if you pledge at this level, you get something else.
How about the mug?
And the mug, yeah.
The OPB mug.
The OPB, yeah. MCM mug.
Yeah.
So, but I said that I would deliver these by July, actually.
Oh, I see, okay.
And that's, you know, it's a target. But I think I can do that. And again, even now, there's a lot of choices. If I was fortunate enough to get a traditional publisher, there are some economic sacrifices. You don't make as much money per book, but you hope you sell a lot more books because they have distribution.
Right.
You can, it used to be called Vanity Press, you know, and you can just kind of pay somebody to print your book and you have a book, and that's not really what I was interested in. But so I'm looking for some distribution, the more the better, of course. But a lot of this, even if you're a traditional publisher and even if you've had some success as an author, anymore you're expected to do your own promotion. So a mid-list author is going to write the book, send it to his agent, the agent sells it, and then at that point you get an advance or something, and then you put on your promotion hat.
Right, the dog and pony show.
And then you go out and try and sell it. And so that's a different thing.
Well, Steve, we're almost out of time here, and I really want to thank you for being here today. Thank you. Please plan to come back, and when you've got the book in hand,
I will.
And I'll have read it, and we can talk about the book itself. I can't wait to read it, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.